tomorrow's India, we need to create thought leaders.
Right.
And thought leaders cannot be created just like that. Everybody, should be in a position to understand, analyze, debate those policies. Okay. Therefore, this policy education becomes very, very important.
Right.
So whether you agree, you do not agree, but the policies must be understood by particularly the younger population. We always used to discuss that our policies need to be changed because there is a talent in rural India also, and our policies is not giving them enough opportunities.
Right.
Policy framing has to be, based on these inputs. It cannot be just a top level thinking.
Right.
It has to come from the ground. Every student, and not only every student, people who are already working in any profession, throughout their career, they will require, these policy inputs at every stage.
Right.
Because policy keeps on changing, level keeps on changing, your role keeps on changing. Therefore, policy education has to be a continuous process.
We are living in times where technology is moving faster than regulation, where markets are moving faster than governments, where decisions taken at boardrooms are increasingly impacting public life. So the question is no more whether policy is relevant. In fact, the question is who understands policy well enough to shape it. Welcome to the Frontiers of Governance and Public Policy podcast, brought to you by the School of Law and Governance, Vishwakarma University, Pune, where we explore the relevance of policy education for not only public servants, but for founders, for executives, for technologists, and institutional leaders who deal with their own set of complexities in their respective roles. With each episode, we converse with a thought leader from diverse sectors, be it academia, industry, entrepreneurship. We try to address or explore a central question, which is who shapes policy and who is shaped by it. To begin our exploration, today we have with us Professor Dr. Wasudeo Gade, is a prominent scientist and innovator. He has served as the Vice Chancellor of Savitribai Phule Pune University and is currently the Vice President at Vishwakarma University, Pune. Over decades of experience, he has navigated central reforms, UGC frameworks, he has navigated state policy environments and taken institutions to outcomes by thoughtfully interpreting policy. We are very glad to have this conversation and begin this foundational conversation with Gade sir. Welcome to the podcast, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here, sir. So as we begin this foundational dialogue, we are privileged to have someone with such a rich experience in governance with us. So we would like to know your journey until now in the space of governance, as an innovator, as a scientist, from there to, from an academic leadership point of view to an institutional leadership point of view. If you could throw some light on your journey, it would be really inspiring for our viewers.
Okay, so first of all, thank you very much for having me over here. I would like to congratulate the School of Governance and the Faculty of Law for taking this initiative to initiate this course, Masters in Public Policy. And I would really like to congratulate you because this is something and need of the hour now.
Thank you, sir.
And there are many reasons for that. We'll discuss it. Okay,
Yes.
But coming back to your question about my journey. Okay, so I did my education, master's and doctoral degree from JNU, and JNU's atmosphere is such that they are well known for their high quality research.
Right, sir.
So though I come from a rural Maharashtra, the JNU's atmosphere actually had a huge impact on my thinking process, and that is why I could think of becoming a scientist. So by the time I finished my PhD, I was offered a scientist position in the central government, the present institute known as IGIB, Institute of Genomics and Integrative Biology, which is a national institute under the government of India.
Right.
So I joined there as a scientist, and at various levels for 20 years I worked there. So I started initially just as a scientist, but then slowly I came to a senior position, involved in administration also. In the process, there were some patents filing and commercialization of the patents. So the technology development which you mentioned initially actually took place there. I learned how to develop a particular molecule, how to upscale that, and how to take it to the commercial level. That training I got it there.
Right.
And while doing that, I had some inclination towards academic also. So while there, I got an opportunity to enroll as a PhD guide in Delhi University. So
Wonderful.
I was recognized as a PhD guide by Delhi University while being a scientist in this institute. So I had some PhD students there. So I started teaching there. So while my R&D was going on, I was also involved in teaching. And slowly then I thought that probably it may be better to opt for a full-time academic career. So then got an opportunity, Pune University. There was the opening at Department of Biotechnology. And then I applied, I was selected, and that's how I joined. So Department of Biotechnology, again I was teaching administration because the departments are autonomous. Since the departments are autonomous, every administration and all these things that you have to do it. And then since these departments have to mentor the affiliated colleges, that linkages that we have established with the colleges was very important. Okay, and that is gave me an opportunity to understand how the universities function, and I was really fascinated by that. The state of educational quality, in affiliated colleges and in the university departments, and the need to improve that. Okay, so continued with that, and somehow I was picked up on a administrative position by Professor Shevgakar, who took over as a Vice Chancellor, and then he made me Director BCUD. Till that time, I was only head of the department. Okay, and that was my limited administrative experience. But since he gave me an opportunity, I took it as a challenge, and 2 years I contributed there, and somehow Shevgakar resigned, and then I was appointed as the Vice Chancellor. Now, this is something which I had not planned, but it happened.
Right.
Now, these 2 years of BCOD director, okay, so that was entirely different than what I was doing in the Department of Biotechnology, and previously what I did 20 years in the National Institute, because that was totally an R&D work. Okay, there, shaping the policies for research and development. What type of a technologies that the nation requires? What type of a technologies are required for the social transformation of the people in almost all fields? Since I was having some research project, interacting with DBT and a lot of other things, it gave me an opportunity. So basically, not contributing so much in policy making, but understanding the societal realities, that was very important. Therefore, I could also point it out or understand myself that what are the gaps. Okay, what the society requires and what our policies are, what we are doing. There were lots of people, they were complaining that they are not getting funds, that funds are, given to only some few institutes and so many things. And there were good projects around also.
Right.
But anyway, that was, that was on my understanding phase. Okay, when I came to Pune University administration, then got an opportunity to work contribute at the national level.
Right, sir.
Okay. Now, because of that experience and this in the university experience, then I was UGC nominee and nominees of various other regulatory bodies on very important committees.
Right.
Like IUCA, I was the member of the board of governors. NCCS, one of the topmost national institute, I was the member of their board of governors. NMIMS, Narsi Monjia, I was a member of their board of governors. NIT in Surat, I was a member of their board of governors. I was also the task force member for deciding the project at Department of Biotechnology, Government of India. I was various committees at the Department of Science and Technology, NAC and all. So these, initially it was an understanding phase, but later on I started contributing in policy framing.
Right.
So that was first phase was, as you rightly pointed out, scientific policies, okay, technology related policies. And when I took her completely as a Vice Chancellor, then it was in the area of academic.
Right.
Then my responsibility was, how the students can be benefited. What are the universities for? Universities are the instrument of social transformation by providing high quality education, educating masses, providing them high quality education so that they contribute to the social transformation. Now, this understanding is very, very important. So, all your policies and everything has to be directed, keeping certain objectives in mind.
Right.
Okay. So, then I started working at that level, and then, there are a lot of things happened, did. So fine, and then in 2017, when I was retired, then came to Vishwakarma University. So for 8 years, involved in certain sort of a advisory role, mentoring role. So that's how it is.
Yes.
So yes, I am happy that I have been able to make some contribution as far as policy development in certain areas is concerned.
Right. So one thing that really stood out, I think, which is relevant to our couple of things that have stood out, but one thing that really hit me was how institutions shaped you or institutions influenced you. For example, you spoke about JNU and the kind of environment it gave you. So, like we said in the beginning, universities have the capacity of, through their policies, through their governance, through the environments that they create for students, of really impacting minds. And apart from that, of course, coming back to the conversation at hand, when you transitioned from being an innovator to being an academic, you kind of, like you said, there was a phase of learning.
Yeah.
So how would you, or was there a particular point where you realized that you needed to understand policy or a structured understanding of policy making or policy interpretation was relevant? If you could give us an example or...
Yeah. See, first I'll just mention very briefly about JNU.
Right, sir.
JNU is something, the academic environment in JNU is unique. Not many universities do have that. 1975, when I joined JNU as a MSc student, in 1975, JNU had introduced credit system, whereas in India, no other university was even thinking about it, not even UGC. So they were very much well ahead of time. Okay, students' involvement in decision making was there right from the very beginning in JNU, which was not there anywhere else. I happened to be elective member on the student council. Okay. And the student council members, you will be surprised that as a student member, I was the member of JNU's academic council. Okay, there were 4 students, president, secretary, convener, and joint secretary. So I was a convener of sciences. So I was representing the student community on academic council. No other university had that.
Right.
Okay, so I was a member of academic council, BOS, and SFC, student faculty committee, and so many things. So I used to be actively involved in curriculum framing and all those things. So therefore, what these policies there and people, Academic Council of JNU is very such a senior professor, so much of things that we could learn, but still they were listening to the students.
Right.
Okay, that is something very, very important. The students' point of view was respected, heard. That I think it's quite, unparalleled.
Correct.
So that gave me, in a way, confidence also. And we were with the students, so lots of issues that we were placed across. How these policies, then the bodies like Academic Council, Executive Council were framing. I had that
Yes.
training there.
Yes.
When I came here at IGIB, as a scientist, then I was sitting on the selection committees. That selection becomes very important of human resource, whether it is a professor or a scientist. Okay, because you have to understand what are the needs and whether the person can actually contribute in those areas.
Right.
So it may look like a simple selection on the basis of a merit, but it is not like that. It is not. There are many, many things. So that also requires, HR policies as such. And when I was on the task force, both CSIR also as well as DST, DBT also. So there, there were people presenting research projects for funding from all over the country.
Correct.
So you could find out, establish clear gap. Projects coming from the national institutes, projects coming from the colleges, located in the interior areas. And there was no fault of them, but there was no infrastructure for that type of a research.
Right.
So therefore, we always used to discuss that our policies need to be changed because there is a talent in rural India also, and our policies is not giving them enough opportunities.
Right.
So therefore, we need to change. There were used to be discussion, and we used to contribute there. So this was a training period, and there, we would identify the policy gaps. And it so happened then after that, we used to have a meeting with the senior bureaucrats, secretaries and all these things. So we used to put our points across. We used to submit reports to all those things. Like when I was as a representative of UGC nominee on various board of governors, the report from me will go to UGC and it will help in changing their policies, framing their policy. Therefore, this becomes very important. Policy framing has to be based on these inputs. It cannot be just a top level thinking. It has to come from the ground. That those realities have to be taken into consideration.
Right, sir. Right, sir. So, and across all the decades of working in these capacities, do you think that policy making has changed in India? Has it transformed? Is it more complex perhaps now than it was earlier?
Yeah, to some extent it has changed. Okay, earlier slightly it used to be, sort of a top-down approach. Okay, where senior bureaucrats and those things, they will take decisions. Of course, there was certain data collected like census data and those type of things on that, but this participation at a larger level probably was not there. Nowadays, it is more data driven, okay, and that is because that becomes very evident. So the policy framing, very fundamental basis now becomes, evidence based.
Right.
Okay, I'll give you one example. We have this higher education survey. Every year, all educational institutes have to provide data about the students. So the students' registration, gender, caste, various types of diversity, their results, and so many, every possible information, every year we are providing to the government. So any educational policy that you need to decide upon, this data becomes very, very important. So therefore, this data-driven policy approach, which is being now taken up, is very, very important. Other thing is that there is a wider discussion, okay, with the stakeholders, and that is very, very important. So at all levels, this decision, it has to be taken up. like there are various commissions, government appoints. What are those commissions for? They basically study the ground situation, ground conditions, and based on, like you say, backward commission and various other commission. Even education policy is based on the report of a commission. They submit all the reports, and based on these policies are framed. So this process was there. To some extent it was there also, but nowadays, because it has a technological inputs, that digitization has helped in providing more accurate inputs. That is very important, and decision making also is becoming very, very fast. Now AI is coming, so AI is doing a lot of human work also, lots of prediction and all those things. So the policy framing based on this becomes more relevant nowadays than probably what it used to be earlier.
We can perhaps say that there are two important things that stood out to me here. One is that now, if you want to, because policy making is more comprehensive and involves, like you said, down up approach to a certain extent, there is more opportunity to make an impact through contributing to policy for young professionals. And secondly, because it is more complex, data driven and more structured in its approach, young professionals seeking leadership positions or seeking a particular career trajectory may need to have a study or have a structured study or a formal education in these particular fields are the two things that I think stand out to me from across our discussion in the past few minutes.
Very important, because see, policies that are framed, it should not be, that access should not be only restricted to the bureaucrats or the people who implement it. People at large, population must understand what those policies are. Therefore, this policy literacy is very, very important. Unless the population, people, they are aware of these policies, we are a democratic country. We are a republic and a democratic country. So, everybody has the right to know how they are governed. Everybody has a right to express his opinion. Now, he can express his opinion if he knows, he is aware of what those policies are. So, everybody, should be in a position to understand, analyze, debate those policies. Therefore, this policy education becomes very, very important. And, for tomorrow's India, we need to create thought leaders. And thought leaders cannot be created just like that. It has to come from ground, and they should be very much sensitive to the social challenges that we have. We are a diverse society, people coming from all those things. Their aspirations need to be addressed. So whether you agree or do not agree, but the policies must be understood by particularly the younger population. And many times young people, they would like to know it also, but they may not get an opportunity. There may be institutions, but very limited, offering this type of education. This type of education, policy education, we have to ensure that it is reaching to the masses. And everybody should, whoever is interested, should get an opportunity to learn what are the policies, what is the process of policy framing, how does it affect their life, their career, and they should, critically evaluate that. Therefore, this becomes very, very important. Very important.
So something that just came to my mind, many a times we confuse compliance with policy literacy. Many a times we think because we know what is to be complied with, what are the submissions to be made, what are the forms to be filled, we understand policy. But would you agree that this is not so, and understanding policy is much more comprehensive than just knowing what compliance is per se?
Compliance and policy, in my opinion, these two are different things. Compliance, there are certain regulatory practices, provisions. There are certain laws which every institutions, organization, they have to obey. Okay, they have absolutely no option. Okay, so that is something after various thought processes they have finalized those regulations. Okay, those decisions, and you have got to follow it. Okay, so therefore you have to submit those reports and all those things. That is a statutory position everybody has to complete. Okay, as far as policies is concerned, okay, here you have a right to represent whether the policy is beneficial or it is not beneficial. Okay, so therefore here you have a right. You may challenge the government also. You may point it out to the concerned authority, maybe at a district level, state level, your government and all, that these policies are misdirected. These policies are against my interest. These policies affect me. Okay, you have every right to point it out. And therefore, educational institutes' role becomes very important. All these things need to be taught. People think whatever is coming, that has to be accepted. It is not like that. It has to be critically evaluated. If it is a plus, you say it is good, positive. If it is not, point it out that this is not. That, internationally, when you look at it, how government changes policies or the governments are changed because of the people's disobedience, anger. Sometimes they represent, when they do not like. Basically, they agitate against the policies when they do not like it. Okay, so all these things, in a way, it's your fundamental right also. So that has to be respected. So the compliance and these things. Here you have a right. Compliance, you have to follow it. Okay.
Yes, sir. So you spoke about how it is essential that we build thought leaders and how the youth should know about policy making, policy interpretation, application. If for today's young leader or someone who's aspiring to be, in a leadership position in their careers, what are the key skill sets you feel they should embody?
This is important in the sense we have to see our national leaders. Have they become a national leader all of a sudden? They have not become national leaders all of a sudden. If you look at the history of freedom struggle and even after that, people have gone through movement. Okay, so they have gone through various stages of development. Okay, so leadership, just doesn't come like that. People, last this corporation elections, municipal these things, that was fought more than, Lok Sabha, because they feel that is their first step. Okay, and from there, their political careers get built up. So, leadership is like this. All of a sudden, it doesn't come to. But there are certain critically, why, everybody does not become prime minister. Okay. So, unless you are equipped, okay, your thought process has to be such that you should be in a position. Say, in the class also there are certain students, okay, they ask questions. Certain students, they do not ask questions. When they ask question, they analyze certain things. There is a process in their mind going on. So, in a way, there are doubts in their mind and which they want to clear. So, therefore, unless you have this, inquiry spirit, okay, you will not learn. So, first of all, it has to be that curiosity to find it out, learning more and more, that becomes very important. Your power of expression, your communication, if it is not there, however good that you may be, okay, but if you are not, there is no clarity in your expression, then that becomes a problem. We also, as a teacher, we have to be successful. Okay, we may be very good, strong in our academic, but if you are not able to communicate properly with the students, do not like it. So, two things is required. One is the communication skills, and is the clarity about your own course or whatever it may be. That is becoming important. Then you have to be sensitive to the social issues. You have to be good human being. Then only you can do justice to the people. So all these things, and you have to be conviction, that is very, very important. Strong, dedicated, no compromise on certain issues. So slowly if you go by that, the moment you get a learning opportunity, you try to learn as much as you possible, and that makes you more and better person, and that is how the leaders are.
Yes. So you threw some light on what are the values that today's leader should embody. Another aspect was that when trying to navigate from junior roles to senior roles, today's young professionals, what kind of, how do they navigate that journey, or what kind of tools that they can they equip themselves with, perhaps from an educational perspective, or perhaps from skill gaining perspective.
Yeah. So as leaders cannot be created all of a sudden. It's a long process, and then that process starts from your student days.
Right.
Okay. Certain students, they take more interest. They are more curious to know more things. Okay. And since that curiosity is there, they learn more, they read more. Okay. They communicate with others, discuss with other fellow students, discuss with teachers. Okay. So basically what happens, your core competency get built up. That is very, very important. Okay. And when you are interacting with your peers, with your seniors, with your teachers or something like that, you get that confidence, which is very, very important.
Right.
Leaders have to be very confident, and that confidence again comes from the competency. Okay. And when you have these competence, leadership qualities get built up. I'll give you one example here, again from JNU. When I was in a student union, Sitaram Yechuri's name you might have heard about. He was a General Secretary of Communist Party of India.
Yes, sir.
He was the president of our student union, and we had a morcha demonstration at the Vice Chancellor's hall. And Professor B.P. Chandra, who was the topmost academicians, he is the highly respected historian in the country, his books and all. Right. He was officiating as a Vice Chancellor. He was also leftist. Okay, he was also communist. But the way Sitaram Yechuri argued with him on the students' matters, students' issues, bluntly he told Professor Bipin Chandra, you are lying. This is the word he used. Okay, strong words, and Professor Bipin Chandra did not take it otherwise. Okay, he kept on arguing his point, but there is no action or anything. That respect, comes for knowledge.
Right.
Okay. There, somebody is right. Okay. He will not have any fear. Okay. These are some of the very important qualities. Right. So you grow with these qualities. When you have this fundamental base, you try to build upon that. More and more you develop. Then you get into certain positions, maybe whether any field, maybe in politics, you travel from any level, municipal, ZP, then go to the state and all. Or even in the industry or in any organization, slowly you build up. Now, if you try to understand the life of these people, there is a full of sacrifice. Okay. We heard many times that Ajit Dada used to be on the site at 6 o'clock.
Right.
Okay. And then he will go to sleep maybe 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock or something like that. 6 o'clock he will be at work. And most of these political leaders, they work like that. We have to see, we have to respect these qualities. This is very, very important. The same way with the corporate people in academic organization, all those things. When you go from one position to another position, your responsibilities, vastly increases.
Correct.
You have to be multitasking.
Yes.
Okay, you cannot say that I will only address my particular class and then after that is over. When you have a class or a teaching responsibility, that also has to be taken care of. You may be various other involved in many things. You have got to do it. That positive attitude, and once again, getting people along with you, that becomes important. At one stage, it is not that you have to deliver. You have to get the work done through others. That quality has to be there.
Yes.
Without developing any anguish, anger or anything. So you must know how to deal with people. But that also comes through experience, very well. But honesty, sincerity, hard work, devotion, and the core knowledge of the subjects. Okay, whatever area that you may be in, because people will respect you for the knowledge that you have.
Of course.
If you have other qualities, knowledge is not, the people will not respect you. So that is something very important. And those type of people, they move up the ladder.
Yes. I have realized in my personal opinion that, or in my personal experience, that I need to know if I am in a position of making any kind of decision, no matter how small the impact, I need to have a structured approach towards it. I need to know who all are the stakeholders who are involved, who all are going to be impacted by the decision. What is the data that I need to rely on, perhaps. So I have, as a professional, also realized, because it kind of applies somehow, I feel that this kind of, I'm able to relate to it. I've realized that I need a more structured understanding of, perhaps we can say, policy making also here. So I think from our discussion, what it all boils down, I feel, is to that when you're navigating the space from, let's say, a junior executive to a senior executive, or from junior management to senior management, or wherever you want to head aspirationally in your career, you kind of need to know intricacies of policy making, decision making, etc. And somehow today I believe that more than management, a degree in management, perhaps what it can give me at such a stage, maybe if I know policy also along with it, so something that gives me an edge or a look into how policies are made, etc., will kind of equip me in a better way to carry out the roles and the responsibilities that my institution gives me the opportunity to.
Certainly, but we have to understand or keep it in mind one thing, that policies are a frame taking into consideration the situation at that particular moment.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And as we move on, things get changed.
Right.
Social condition, everything changes.
Yes.
The policies also are changed.
Right.
So there is a continuous policy revisiting.
Right.
Okay, the reviewing the policy, and old policies, they are discarded and new policies there. So therefore policies, always they are changing.
Right.
Okay, so therefore people also have to change.
Right.
Now you mentioned that people moving from one stage to another. At one stage we also become a policy maker.
Right.
Okay, so we understand. Suppose we are in one organization. Okay, heading so many employees. So your HR policies, which were there maybe 10 years back, that may not remain the same thing now.
Right.
So you have to make the policies.
Yes.
Now how do we make the policies? Again, take the ground realities into account. You discuss with people. Okay, understand their requirement, the working environment, and so many other things. So you have to be always sensitive, listening to the people, and prepared for a change. Okay, now how this is possible? That you have to be always learning.
Right.
So whether it is academician, industrialist, politician, whatever it may be, we have to be always in the learning phase.
Right.
If we are in the learning phase and we are open for new ideas, okay, there are many things that person can do at every level. Your junior level also, certain things, policy related issues can be handled. But as you go on serious, senior and senior position, that gets widen up. Okay, you have so many things to do, so many things to think, So therefore, you have to be multitasking, and therefore, when we talk about policy, education, and all these things, okay, all these things have to come
Right.
into that.
Right,
It is very, otherwise, it remains incomplete. But once we get into that, we start enjoying it also.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
and senior people have, of course, wider, more responsibility. Junior people have less, but everybody is responsible.
Right, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes. So I would like to ask you a question here. If you were like as a 30-year-old, if you would imagine yourself as a 30-year-old, do you think you would change anything about the education that you received, or perhaps maybe do you think that you would want to have an additional layer to your education that would have perhaps made it easier for you to navigate the spaces that you did, or gave you equipped with you with the tools needed for them?
Yeah, it's a good question again. I give one example always. I am a biologist.
Right. So.
Okay, when I look at history, all the Nobel Prizes in biology have gone to non-biologists. Not even one Nobel Prize has gone to biologists. It has gone to physics, chemistry, physicians, and those people. Now we have to understand why this has happened.
Right, sir.
Because those people with the knowledge of physics, chemistry, physiology, they could understand biology much better than the we biologists as such. Okay. Right. And biologists remain only biologists, but to understand this biological phenomena, which is all chemistry based, if we do not have a chemistry knowledge, we cannot do that. Okay. So that is, in my opinion, very important thing. Our curriculum in entire country, even now with NAP policy, though we talk about interdisciplinary approach and all, it is not as compared to the European or the Western universities. Okay, there, when they talk about policy educations, master's program or a bachelor program, how many subjects they teach? They teach science also, they teach economics also, they teach political science also, they teach sociology also, psychology also, all those things. Okay, so there are so many options. We start with the fundamentals, and then after that you go. Okay, so that type of a system is still not there in our education system.
Right.
Okay, we have to change. Okay, from this top-down approach. Even today, our approach in education is top-down. UGC gives certain things, education policy or whatever, state government gives certain things, and we follow it. Okay, so we are not giving choice to the students to independently decide what he wants to learn.
Right.
It has to be bottom-up approach, when the student will decide what he wants to learn, what his curriculum should be, what should be his combination at a graduate level, postgraduate level.
Right.
Somebody wants to do computer science, but at the same time he wants to do sociology also, economics also, management also. We have to give that opportunity to them.
Right.
So in my opinion, though NMP talks about this, personalized and customized curriculum, in practice we are not doing that. So fundamentally, if we make that particular change, customize curriculum for the people, we will be creating entirely a different type of a skill set. This type of people will be very useful as far as understanding the public policy is concerned. Evaluation of the critical evaluation of the public policy is concerned, their implementation also, and their advice to the concerned people about how the policies should be. Okay, because unless you have this basic knowledge, you cannot comment upon it. So that, I think, that is very, very important. Other things, technology of course is coming up. that technology component has to be integrated in our curriculum.
Right.
Okay, which is not happening as such.
Hmm.
Somebody may learn computer engineering and all, but there are basic fundamental things so everybody should know. Certain subjects like psychology, you know, in my opinion, every student going to higher education must have some knowledge about behavioral science.
Right.
That has to be an integral part of all across curriculum. Mathematics is such an important subject. Social sciences people, law people, everybody must understand, must learn certain level of mathematics. Otherwise, you cannot, you know, how do you analyze the data and all those things. So there are fundamental changes need to be done.
Right.
New education policy has addressed to some extent. Okay. That critical thinking, creativity, those, you know, a lot of interdisciplinary, those things have come up, but we have to go even much beyond that. Okay, these are changes which are must in the academic system at the moment.
Right, sir. So the onus falls upon educational institutions to build leaders, to build young professionals who can create an impact that is necessary for nation building, of course. And at the School of Law and Governance, this is exactly what we try to do. This is exactly what we aspire to, and we are you know, kind of working towards creating this kind of impact.
That is why I would like to specifically congratulate your department for this.
Yes, thank you, sir. So our takeaways from today's conversation primarily are that policy education is necessary today because we are navigating a very complex set of conditions, be it nationally, be it internationally. When an individual is navigating an organizational space, maybe you join in as someone who is proficient in technology, but then you advance your career in a way that you take up administrative responsibilities and, you know, as your aspirations take you ahead. In all of these aspects, you require some education of policy, some understanding of policy, and it is very important that in these positions you have the right interpretation of the policies around you. And if you know, for those who want to create an impact through their work, policy making, policy interpretation, contributing towards policy is definitely a way of creating that impact today, for sure.
I just want to like to add that what you say, that a policy information or policy knowledge, how policy framing is carried out and what is the impact of all these policies. When I was a student, this type of opportunity was not available.
Right, sir.
Okay. Had these opportunities been available, and if I had that type of a training, probably I could have been a better person. So therefore, in my opinion, this is very, very important for a student of any discipline. This is something fundamental nowadays. Every student, you know, and not only every student, people who are already working in any profession, throughout their career, they will require, you know, these policy inputs at every stage, because policy keeps on changing, level keeps on changing, your role keeps on changing. Therefore, policy education has to be a continuous process.
So, yes, sir.
So thank you very much. It's a very good, it's a great initiative, and I wish all the very, very best.
Thank you so much, sir. So we can agree towards the, from what we've learned throughout this episode and from the insights that sir has given us, we can definitely say that policy education today is not peripheral anymore, and it has become fundamental to all of us navigating our respective workspaces and trying to create an impact through our work. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining in for today's podcast, and we'll see you in the next episode.